After some technical difficulties, we figured this out. But welcome back to another episode of the Walk-On Redshirts. If you're joining us, thank you. Appreciate it. We're testing out something new. We're a couple minutes late, but that doesn't matter.
We're never late. A wizard is never late, and neither are the Walk-On Redshirts.
We work on our own schedule.
That's right. That is 100%.
If your Central Time is still not 8:30.
Yeah. What are you doing at Central Time anyway?
Exactly. We're back after we took a week off. I decided I was going to take a short trip down to, Aruba. And apparently in Aruba, you hit your picks a lot more than the States.
Yeah, I've filed a complaint, a collusion report with Ryan Day's brother. We're looking into this because, how convenient that you tie up the score when you go out of the country, Jake. How did you go 9-1? I need you to come clean.
I'm not really sure how I did that. Doesn't really make any sense. And the one I got wrong was Texas State versus Coastal Carolina because Coastal Carolina pulled out the victory.
Yep, and shame on you. Shame on you for not going with the Chanticleers.
It's okay. It's okay. We're doing well. We're doing well, and now we're moving on to week 12, and we've got a lot of news over the weekend. We've got 4 coaches who are already fired and another one who is probably on their way out with Chip Kelly. Boise State announced that they let go of their coach whose name is slipping my mind. Brady Hoke is retiring from San Diego State. And then the 2 big ones is Jimbo Fisher is officially out and $76 million richer.
Did we call it? Andy Avalos, by the way, is Boise State.
That's his name. I knew it was A, but I couldn't remember what it was. And then Mississippi State lets Zach Arnett go after 11 games. But we got to start with Texas A&M here. I mean, they signed him to a 10-year contract just a couple years ago. They're already letting him go. And it's not surprising. He was on the hot seat entering the season.
You don't pay someone $100 million to be slightly above average. That is not a slightly above average paycheck. That is a extravagant paycheck. That is top 3 coach in the country paycheck. And he wasn't giving top 3 coach in the country results. I mean, they had 0 10-win seasons since he's been there. He had a worse record than Kevin Sumlin, which is probably the most egregious stat I've seen. And he just underachieved. And the thing that points to coaching, so you could say, it's this and that, it's this and that. They had the highest rated recruiting class in recruiting history last year or 2 years ago. What do they do with that? What do they do with that, Jake? Absolutely nothing. They're recruiting in the top 10 every single year that he's been there, and they have done nothing with it. So, Jimbo, that's all on you, dog. That's all on you.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a disaster the last couple of years. There was a report that came out that he wasn't really involved with the Texas high school football coaches over the summertime. There's some sort of, I think it was a clinic of some sort. Dumb. And you think if you're one of the premier coaches in the state of Texas, I mean, even if you're not, you should be there because you should be building these relationships with these high school coaches. Texas football is who you want to be building your relationships and keeping your kids home. And it started to feel like the end of his tenure at Florida State, where he just took his foot off the gas, didn't care as much. And, his last season, he wasn't very good at Florida State. And
no, and Jake, I don't know if you remember how he left Florida State. These bad decisions and just not good personal decisions have what's been plaguing him his entire career. I mean, he left in the middle of the night to Florida State, from Florida State to Texas A&M. They find out through the media that the players do, and then he sends them a text. Doesn't call them, doesn't show back up to do like a, hey guys, you got to understand this is about the amount of money that they offer me. This would be stupid for me to pass up. No, he did none of those things, Jake. He sent a text message to these guys that he sat in these players' families' living rooms and told them, hey, I'm going to take care of you. You're going to make it to the NFL. I'm going to coach my ass off with you. And he didn't do any of those things to those kids. And then he failed them one last time before he left. So, I mean, he got what he deserved. And honestly, what sucks is he's doing just fine. He's getting paid $7 million a year for like the next 10 years. 8 years,
I think I saw that he gets $19 million basically by the end of the year. He gets like a $19 million payday and then $7 million every year until it's paid off.
Yeah, 19 by the end of this year, 25 by the end of next year, then 7 for the rest.
And
Not too shabby.
he can comfortably retire and never have to coach again. Will he? Maybe. I still think this goes back to, if you take out Jameis Winston from his whole tenure, how do we view Jimbo Fisher?
He's just another guy. He's just
I
another
think
guy.
he is a slightly above average coach. I don't think he's anything crazy. I think that lightning in a bottle was the 2013 Florida State team. Jameis Winston is arguably one of the best quarterbacks in college football in the last 15 years. And I don't really think you can dispute that, no matter what he's done in the NFL. He was crazy accurate. He was a very talented quarterback in college, and there's a reason why he won the Heisman.
Right, and don't ever or hold a player's NFL career against him for his college career, because there's been a lot of
Absolutely.
great college football players that just don't quite pan out in the NFL. It's a different game.
Mm-hmm.
You're with different coaches, different schematics. I mean, the spread offense is really just now getting hot in the NFL. So that's how slow they are to adapt to these other games. So, Jameis Winston was a great college quarterback. He's 50-50 in the NFL. Well, you could argue either way, but you've got guys like Tim Tebow, Vince Young,
Mm-hmm.
Johnny Manziel, all these guys who are
Plenty
just,
of Heisman winners have not done
yeah,
well in the NFL.
Troy Smith. Shout out Troy Smith.
Thanks. For Texas A&M, you got to think, where do they go from here? And if they've got the money to pay out Jimbo Fisher $76 million, they can back the trucks up for anybody at this point. And
But Jake, I don't think they do. I don't think they will. I think this burns them. I think they're gonna take their time with this one. They're gonna slow down, and I think they're gonna take a guy who really wants to be there, and they're not gonna give him the Jimbo Fisher money.
I could see that. Somebody online suggested going after Kirby Smart, and honestly, Kirby Smart is probably the best football coach in all of college football right now. And I mean, if they do actually have the money, I don't see why you wouldn't try to offer him like someone egregious amount, 15 million. But he's not going to leave. He's not going to leave Georgia.
No. And anytime something like this happens, of course, like, that's the easiest thing to say. Yeah, let's go after Kirby Smart. If you don't pick up the phone and call Kirby Smart, you're an idiot. I tell you, every time something like this happens, Nick Saban's phone starts to ring, and he puts it on. He ghosts you. Kirby Smart's phone starts to ring, he ghosts you. And a few years ago, Dabo's phone used to always ring, and he'd probably ghost you. So yes, Kirby Smart is going to be reached out to. He will not take that job. He is not going to entertain it. No shot.
The only thing he might use it for is to get a bigger payday.
Get a bigger pay. Yeah, and why would he even need to do that? I mean,
he'll just walk into the Georgia president office and be like, "Hey, so Texas A&M called. Do you just want to give me more money now, and we can call it done?"
He doesn't even need to do that. I don't know if you remember, Jake, but Nick Saban's contract currently states that he has to get paid $1 more million than the richest contract in college football. So he will always be the highest paid college football coach. You've got potentially UCLA's coach. His name's slipping my head. My
Chip
mind
Kelly.
Right now. Chip Kelly, who's about to come out. I mean, you want to talk about an offensive mind who can get the most out of people. I mean, we're probably going to touch on the UCLA in a second, but there's a lot of guys out there who would be chomping at the bits to be going into a place like Texas to be able to recruit. I mean, James Franklin, I bet his phone rings.
I think Mike Elko is the guy they need to go after.
Mike Elko will take the job. I genuinely think this is Mike Elko's job. Genuinely think that.
There's a couple names that I think you could. I think you have to call Dan Lanning in Oregon. Whether he's interested or not, you have to call him. He's got SEC experience. He coached at Georgia. He's familiar with the territory. You have to give him a call. Whether he takes the call or not is different, but you have to pick up the phone and call him. I think Kalen DeBoer at Washington is another very interesting name. He is clearly an offensive-minded guy. You see what he's doing with Michael Penix. He's got great offensive skill players there. I put this article out the other day. I put Lance Leipold on there. I think he's another one that dude just wins. Yeah, every step of the way, Leipold just wins.
Well, I want to take a step back to Kalen DeBoer too. I think the only way Kalen DeBoer leaves Washington is if he sees the writing on the wall. It's like, oh shit, I have a really talented roster right now. It's going to be a couple years before we're good again. Let me get out of here while I can make a payday. That would be the only reason I see him leaving Washington, because you got to think the atmosphere in Washington is on the up and up. I mean, they're going to the Big Ten. They're about to get Big Ten money. They're about to be in a conference that actually makes good decisions and has a TV deal.
Let's say that. Let's hold on the good decisions. We're not really sure what they do.
In terms of making money, they're doing a good job. And he's got an opportunity to make a lot of money, and so does Dan Lanning. And honestly, like Dan Lanning is seemingly has gotten Oregon over the hump. I don't think he entertains the call.
No, I don't think Dan Lanning really has any reason to leave, and I think he's in a very good spot. Um, Mike Elko is a name that I think he takes it because Duke, you have limitations. Like it's not going to get any easier in the ACC, and there's also discussions the ACC falls apart.
And he used to
Lance,
coach. He used to coach at Texas A&M.
he was the defensive coordinator for like 4 years. He did a great job there. He's very familiar with the program. He understands the expectations. Familiar face. Um, I think Jeff Traylor out of UTSA is another really intriguing name. If you dive into his history, he was a high school football coach for a long time, like 25 years in the state of Texas. Has only ever coached in the state of Texas, except for leaving for like a second. And he helped turn UTSA into a formidable program.
Yeah.
You know, they've won multiple conference championships. They're in position to also play for a conference championship in the American Athletic Conference. I think that's a very interesting, but he's not going to bring the wow factor that I think A&M fans want to bring.
Correct. Well, not even fans, but donors. I think the donors
Yes.
are like, hey, dude, we just coughed up $77 million. The guy you hire next, you ain't missing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Mike Elko is going to be that guy. I'm signed, sealed, delivered. That's the move stamp of approval. That's going to happen. And I think we hear that December. I think we hear that conference championship season. I think before the next recruiting window opens, Mike Elko will be announced as the Texas A&M coach.
I think you could see it the Monday after rivalry weekend because
Yes.
Duke won't be playing in the ACC championship game. I think you could see that happen like the Monday after.
No, and honestly, like, he is very deserving. He's a great coach. He's a great recruiter. He's done such a great job at Duke. I mean, Duke is above 500.
Twice in a row. They won 9
Yeah,
games last year.
like yeah, it's like yeah, whatever. That's Duke. This is not basket. This is Duke football. This is not basketball. The last coach to do that consistently was freaking Steve Spurrier. So, Mike Elko's a great coach, and I think if he doesn't take that job, Jeff Traylor would be the guy. But I really think it's Mike Elko. Have I said that yet?
I think Mike Elko would be a fantastic coach for A&M. Speaking of SEC openings, we just talked about Zach Arnett getting fired. He got fired after 11 games at Mississippi State. I put out there that I thought he should have got more time, but every Mississippi State fan said that he shouldn't because he came in and screwed up everything Mike Leach had done.
That's exactly what I saw too.
And they basically were like, he deserved to go for what he did. He came in and wrecked everything Mike Leach built up and he had the infrastructure. And Mississippi State also had an interim AD. It was a very tragic situation. Mike Leach passes unexpectedly. You're put in a really, really tough spot there. And you're trying to keep the program together. You're trying to keep players in. And then, everything happens with Mike Leach. You have an interim AD. The logical sense is just to promote somebody from within at that point. And if Arnett doesn't screw it up, basically, your whole job was just to keep the infrastructure and not screw it up.
Yeah.
And it sounds like he did exactly the opposite. Every coach wants to put their own fingerprints on it, but it sounds like he didn't do it the right way.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't fault him. I mean, because if you're a guy, you cannot coach as if you're somebody else, and if your identity is not the Mike Leach way, then you're going to fail it regardless. So you might as well go out trying your way. So like I kind of commend him for doing that. I mean, it would have been really easy just to stick with what you have, and I mean, you don't know what you can do. Now he has experience coaching in his way. He's not going to get another Power 5 job coming out of this, but I think someone will hire him. I mean, and maybe a Group of 5 team will pick him up. Maybe he'll replace Jeff Traylor, or maybe he'll go to Liberty and when Chadwell goes to Mississippi State, because that's who's definitely getting hired at Mississippi State.
If they don't call up Dan Mullen and hire Dan Mullen again, I think Chadwell makes perfect sense for this job.
I don't know. It depends on the ego. Depends on the ego. I mean, Dan Mullen left you. You going to want to bring him back?
I honestly, I would at least pick up the phone and have a conversation with him because he's widely considered one of your most successful coaches of all time, possibly the most successful. He had you ranked number 1 in the country at one point.
In the very first college football playoff poll, he was
the very first college football playoff poll. I think it's at least worth the conversation. Whether it makes sense, I think you should at least have the conversation there because he was really good. I think Jamie Chadwell makes perfect sense though because he helped build Coastal Carolina. He has taken liberty to even new heights after what Hugh Freeze did. I think he makes a ton of sense. I'll tell you an underrated one. I don't think Mississippi State will do it. Rich Rodriguez at Jacksonville State.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go with the Rich Rod, I mean, he's very polarizing, Jake. I mean,
He
people have a
is.
lot of
He
different
is.
opinions on him.
But
He
so is
spent
Mike Leach.
that's true. That's true. Uh, he spent some time at Clemson, before he went to Jacksonville State, and uh, he spent some time at Michigan. He spent some time at West Virginia, and the fans there loved him for a little bit of time, and then ended up hating him. We had a fallen soldier just now.
We did.
Stand by. Jake had a party foul, but that's okay. Hey, this is a gritty podcast. We fight through beer spills, alleged beer spills. So I'm going to ramble for a second, guys. So
Go for it.
Jamie Chadwell. This is why I think he should be the hire. Coastal Carolina had been a Group of 5 school for the first time and ever, and he takes that team and made them relevant on a national stage to the point where they're being ranked nationally. That doesn't happen. And, we're being a little spoiled now with JMU doing it, going undefeated, and now, getting it talks like 2 years after joining Group of 5, coming to the D1 level. Then you have Jacksonville State doing the same exact thing, the mighty Gamecock. So this guy has changed the way that people view Group of 5 schools. Like, gone are the days in which people can really overlook a lot of these programs, and I think a lot of that has to do with Jamie Chadwell. So I think this would be the guy that Mississippi State would want to go with. And then I saw also on Twitter that he didn't turn his location off when he was tweeting today about some Liberty news. So he's tweeting about some camp going on Wednesday, and the location on the tweet was from Starksville, Mississippi. I don't know if you know what university is in Starksville, Mississippi.
Please
Jake,
tell me which one.
it would be Mississippi State, the Mighty Bulldogs, Hail State. So I think that the writing's on the wall there.
I think that Jamie Chadwell purposely left Coastal Carolina to prove that he can coach somewhere else. I think the whole purpose was for him to say that he can coach at another university, and it's not just Coastal Carolina that he can coach at.
Yeah.
So I think that was the whole purpose for him to leave. And because he could have stayed and just been a legend at Coastal Carolina.
He could have.
Yet here he is at Liberty, in position nonetheless to actually go to a New Year's Six bowl game.
9-0. Are they 10-0 now?
They're 10-0.
10-0.
They're 10-0. They're 10-0. And my fallen soldier has been cleaned up.
Nice.
Shout out my wife for bringing me a towel.
That was fast. That
was a very good beer too. That's the disappointing part is when you have a good beer and you spill it by accident. It's the only one I got because
Jake, it's the spirit of giving. You wanted to make sure your table and your computer and your phone and your floor tasted it too. So good on you. The people won't say it, but I will. I'm brave enough to say it.
But I think there's a couple other interesting candidates. I don't know who else to look at. I don't know what their budget consists of for all this stuff. And because they didn't pay a ton of money for Arnett to go out. I think another really interesting candidate is Barry Odom. He's the current UNLV head coach, but he also spent 4 years at Mizzou. And UNLV is 8-2. UNLV is not good at football ever. No. And he has them at 8-2 and a chance to win the Mountain West, which to me is intriguing in itself. So we'll see who they end up with. The one other one, which was announced earlier today, is Chip Kelly is probably out after this weekend.
That's mind-boggling to me. UCLA has not been relevant in the past decade. So let's be honest, UCLA, in terms of football. You're competing against USC and recruiting. You're competing against Washington, Oregon, Utah now. You're in a pocket in which you're fighting for all the top talent. And, he started to get the big guys to come in there. I mean, Dante Moore, regardless of what you think of what he is this year, he was a top 3 recruit quarterback coming out of high school. I mean, they're getting dominant guys to start coming into campus. And they're struggling this year when they have 3 quarterback injuries and you want to fire him. That's mind-boggling to me, Jake. That really is. Like if this is real news, I think that's pretty stupid on their part. And honestly, like if I'm a coach, why would I want to go there? Like this guy starts to turn this program around and make them like tough to face, and then you're gonna sit there and fire him after he's dealing with injuries. And they're playing great defense. I mean, they're competing in all these big time games. I mean, it's not like they were just getting blown out by everybody. So this is a foolish move if they follow through with this.
Yeah, I just don't know who they're going to go get
Right.
because you're going into a tougher conference because you're taking the best teams from the Pac-12, with the exception of Utah, with you to the Big Ten, and now you're going to have Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, Iowa, Wisconsin. It's not like it gets easier. So I just don't know who they're going to go out and get and think that this is going to work.
No, this the only thing I could think of is they already have someone that's in mind. You know, maybe Jimbo's going to UCLA, go live on a beach.
Maybe they go get Jimbo. You never know. You truly never know.
Coaches are
And
sickos. They want to play, but there's probably some clause that he can't go somewhere. But I don't know. He got fired, so maybe it's different. But wouldn't be
so
shocked.
we'll see what happens with UCLA. I don't want to speculate too much for this one because it's still early and he's still technically is employed. So we'll see what happens with this one. Do you want to jump into some of the action from this past weekend though?
Yes, sir.
And Michigan and Penn State played one of the ugliest, most Big Ten games I've ever seen in my life.
Jake, they threw the ball 8 times. Michigan threw the ball, was it 8 times or 9 times?
They threw it 8 times, and they did not throw it after the 7-minute mark in the second quarter.
That is unbelievable. They threw it one more time in the second half, but it was a pass interference.
Pass interference. Yep.
So it didn't count.
Didn't
as
count.
a reported pass play. The more you know, people. Penn State. This is not on the defense. Yes, you see that Michigan scored 25 points. Penn State made it really, really hard for them. And Michigan was like, all right, we got to lead. We know your offense sucks, and we're just going to run the hell of the ball and make this clock go out. And honestly, like after a while, and your offense just going dead, you're giving Michigan field position. They're going to capitalize. So if anybody starts hating on Penn State's offense or defense because of this, you're a fool. They still played a really good game, and man, you just got out talented. And the difference is the quarterback. And I do not think JJ McCarthy is that good, but the fact that he's back there, you have to play. You cannot just sell out for the run, even though they run it 39 times in a row.
There were a couple times where they looked like they were going to run it or going to pass it. JJ McCarthy rolled out, but then he would take off and run.
Correct.
So they might have called a pass play, but JJ then called his own number and gets 5, 6, 7, 8 yards. To me, this is once again terrible James Franklin in-game coaching. The first half, they score a touchdown and 14-9. They choose to chase points at that point instead of just kicking the extra point and go down 4. They chose to chase points and go down, try and go down to 3. Still the first half. You don't need to chase points in the first half. I know that you think points can be tough to come by, but you still have to score again to tie it up. Are you thinking this game's going to be 14-14 and that's how you're going to go to overtime? Like, this is way too early to be doing that. And it came back to bite them in the ass if they really wanted to try to come back, because then all of a sudden, now they're chasing a touchdown the rest of the game. And the 2-point conversion was terrible. Then with 5 minutes left in the game, they go for it from their own 30-yard line. There's still 2 timeouts. Your defense is playing incredible. Why do you not punt the ball there? And, I know that there's a chance that if they continue to move the ball, that they're going to get the first down and run it out. But your defense has played so well. Put the faith in your defense and get them to get the ball back and try again, rather than whatever the heck they were trying to run there, because Drew Aller looked like he was lost and didn't know the playbook at that point.
No, and Drew Aller is a very talented quarterback, so that they've failed him. But one word to describe James Franklin in this game is scared. And that's the only reason why you would go for 2 that early in the game. That's the only reason why you would go for it on 4th and long when your quarterback couldn't throw it further than 3 yards down the field accurately. And he's scared, Jake. He's scared. He's scared for his job. And that tells me as a player when you're making panic decisions that early in the game, you don't have confidence in us. You have no confidence in us. Guys can feed that you feed off of that. You feed off of that. And man, like that when you're trying to make yourself believe and you're trying to manufacture hope in yourself, and then your coach is over there not believing in you, shaking his head, kind of looking at the ground like, shit, how are we
And
gonna get through
it
this
makes
one?
sense that they fired their offensive coordinator immediately after the game. Mike
Should have done it
Yurcich got
before it.
fired.
He
Mike
should have got
Yurcich
fired weeks ago.
Mike
Sorry.
Yurcich is one of the most overrated offensive coordinators, and I said this years ago because when he left Oklahoma State, went to Ohio State, Oklahoma State fans were excited. Then he left Ohio State and went to Texas, and Ohio State fans were excited. And then Texas let him go. Like, if your team is excited that their offensive coordinator is leaving, that is not a good sign moving forward.
No.
Yurcich was fine, but Yurcich is not worth the money they were paying for him, and he clearly doesn't run a good offense.
Jake, they have 2 running backs that are top 5 in the Big Ten, and they're not able to get a running game going. They've got a 5-star quarterback who they won't let throw the ball 5 yards down the
They
field.
have a left tackle that's projected to go in the top 10 of the NFL draft.
Yeah, top 5 now. Top 5. He's surpassed Joe Alt. He is the guy in this draft. So it's like, dude, you got guys everywhere. You got guys everywhere. I don't want to hear it. So
Katron Allen was running the ball better than Nick Singleton, and I don't know if maybe there's a complex in the backfield of trying to get everybody their touches, but at a certain point, you just have to forget that and figure out a way to win.
and
And
you know who did that, Jake? JJ McCarthy in Michigan. The dude is in the Heisman race and throws the ball 8 times in a game. There goes your Heisman hopes. Bye.
oh yeah,
Didn't give a shit. Did you see him pouting? Did you see him complaining?
no,
Did you see
no.
him get mad about it? No, that dude wants to win a national championship. He couldn't give a damn less about the Heisman Trophy. And so, like, when you're coaching in that way, to like, oh, I gotta give this guy touches. Nah, dude, you have to coach in a way that serves your entire team, not a player. And if you're trying to feed these guys so that they're both happy, you're not recruiting right. You've got a bad
Do you think
culture.
the Michigan's receivers care at all that they didn't get the ball thrown to them at all this weekend, or
Hell
do you
no,
think that they care that they won?
they care that they won. And honestly, Jake, they know that going in. Jim Harbaugh is blunt. He is blunt. He's
Jim
gonna lie
Harbaugh
to the
didn't
media.
coach.
He recruited them, and he's instilled this culture, and these guys know what Michigan likes to do. You'd have to be stupid to think you're going to get the ball thrown to you 10 times a game as a Michigan wide receiver. So you know what you're going there to do. You're going there to win freaking football games. So, you know, that hats off to Michigan's culture, but that exposed Penn State's culture, and that exposes James Franklin. And honestly, Jake, I would not doubt to see his name start to get spinning a little bit in this little coaching carousel. I wouldn't see it. I would not doubt to see it start to come up.
You know, I looked it up. His buyout is only $6 million if another team were to hire him, but his buyout at Penn State were to hire him is like 56 million or something like that. So it wouldn't shock me. Maybe not this year. Let's see maybe what happens next year, but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe there's like a mutual parting of ways at some point where James Franklin might show interest in a job and Penn State say, by all means, we're not going to match. We're not going to try to match your salary. We're not going to do anything. Go ahead and take that job.
Yeah, see ya.
So the other big game from the weekend was Georgia Ole Miss, and I don't think we need to spend too much time on this because Ole Miss didn't spend too much time being competitive in this game.
No, and shout out my predictions. If you would have read this, George, last time Ole Miss faced a good defense, a great defense, excuse me, was Alabama. And how many points did they score, Jake?
Not many of them, if I remember right.
I could count on my hand. They had 10. Very similar against Georgia. Now they
I have a
look
friend with 9
competitive.
fingers, so they couldn't count on their hand.
Well, and they did the same thing against Georgia, and it looked like they were going to be competitive very early. They scored first, and then they just went dead, gone. See ya. And this is the difference between Georgia's recruiting and Ole Miss's recruiting. This is the difference between one-sided high-octane offense and a cheap-ass defense to a very balanced team. Georgia is very balanced. They are good on there. There's not many weak spots, and the weak spots can get covered up by their strengths. And Brock Bowers is not a human being. If you want proof that aliens are real, turn on the tape from the Ole Miss game. His first game back from ankle surgery after 4 weeks, and the dude just balled out. I mean, he looked phenomenal, Jake. He looked phenomenal.
Yeah, this game was not really close. I mean, it was 28-14 at halftime, and Georgia just opened up after that point. It was 38-14 entering the fourth, and then Georgia scores again, makes it 45-14 in the fourth quarter. It never felt as close, even as the score shows at 52-17.
No.
Like, Ole Miss scored early, and they made it 14-14. You thought maybe they were going to have a chance in it, and it never got close again. Jackson Dart is okay. He's fine. He is what he is. He's not going to go out and win you any ball games. Ole Miss did fine rushing the ball, but again, like, when Ole Miss plays a really good defense, they just falter. They struggle to move the ball, and Ole Miss does not play strong defense. Lane Kiffin is not a strong defensive team. Never has been, never will be. So playing in a physical SEC like this, you have to play good defense or you're going to get blown out.
Yeah, and they got blown out. They got exposed.
Absolutely.
You can't be one-sided and compete with the big boys. And this shows that Ole Miss had no business being in the top 10. Now, Ole Miss has played really well. Don't get it twisted. Georgia is just that much better than everybody. It's not even close. There's only one team I think that could beat Georgia in this entire field, and it's not who you think it is. It's the team that they're going to face in the SEC championship in December. It's not Michigan. Michigan, I still to this day do not think that Michigan can hold a candle to Georgia. Alabama's the
No, I think Georgia's offense is more explosive. I think Carson Beck is incredibly underrated as a passer. And I mean, he's potentially going to be in New York for the Heisman ceremony. I think his team is phenomenal around him. I think Michigan might be able to slow them down, but I don't know if they can go shot for shot with Georgia.
No, absolutely not. They can't. And you know what impresses me the most about Carson Beck is that he's improved week in and week out. Every single week he's gotten better. I mean, he struggled to throw the ball against UT Martin and Ball State, and South Carolina, which I was like, okay, maybe Carson Beck's not the guy. But then he throws for 300. He throws for 300 again. He throws for 300 again. Well, then he gets to Vanderbilt and throws for 261. But that's okay. He completed 75% of his passes. Then he goes to Florida, another 300 yards. Then he goes to Missouri, struggles a little bit. Then he throws for another 3 yards, gets Ole Miss. He's gotten better and better every single week. And honestly, like, he doesn't have to do much. They're running the football well. Just throw the ball to Brock Bowers, see what he can do, and your defense isn't gonna expose you if you struggle on offense. They've handled this situation with him very well, and I hats off to Carson Beck.
Yeah. I mean, he's just going to continue to get better, and the offense every week just gets better and better and better. And it's scary because they could three-peat, and there's rumors that Carson Beck's going to come back, and you really don't know when this Georgia dynasty is going to end.
Do you mean Brock Bowers? Isn't Carson Beck a freshman?
Carson Beck is in his third year, technically.
Oh my God, you are right. He is a junior. I forgot completely about that. That's not fair. And then they got the number one quarterback coming in next year anyway.
Yeah. So if Carson Beck comes back, I mean, a bunch of the backups probably transfer and go to another program, but that's fine. And you just don't really know when this Georgia dynasty is going to end. Maybe it ends this year, but you never know. All right, let's jump into this weekend's games because we have two big matchups, a bunch of good matchups, but two main ones. Speaking of Georgia travels to Tennessee this weekend. We'll make our picks, but the spread is actually way lower than I thought it was. Earlier today, when I looked, it was 10.5, and for some reason, I want to say that's actually lower than what it was. But do you think Tennessee even has a chance in this game?
Absolutely not. They were dead against Missouri. DEA, capital D, dead. They looked awful. Luther Burden was a shell of himself, and that offense still was just able to move the ball up and down the field on them. And if you get out physical by Missouri, what do you think's going to happen when Georgia comes to town? It ain't going to be pretty. 10.5 is not even close to enough. I don't know if Vegas knows something that we don't know. I'm taking Georgia minus 10.5. Like, spoilers, You're going to hear me say that in a few minutes. This game is going to get ugly. It's going to get ugly very quickly. Joe Milton, for some reason, these big games where there's a lot on the line, it just gets too shaky and makes too many mistakes. And you can't make mistakes against Georgia. You can't make more than one mistake against Georgia. Honestly, you probably shouldn't even make one against Georgia. And he's not the kind of guy that's going to go out there and not make that mistake. And the biggest fault on Tennessee is now their defense again. They've started to have some injuries in their backfield, so now they can't stop the pass anymore. They're back to being in the 84th, 85th ranked defense in the country in terms of stopping the pass. So it's going to be a bloodbath.
Shout out my wife bringing me a beer after I spilled one. She brought me a towel and then she brought me a beer. Wife of the year.
That is wife of the year. Listen, folks, take your wife to Aruba, and this is the stuff that you'll get. My wife,
she will bring you a beer in the middle of recording your podcast.
And the podcast is talking about football with some hairy, stinky dude named Moose. So that's not something you want to write home about, folks. And his wife's just showing up. That's grit. That's grit, Jake.
She shows up on game day.
She does.
What I was going to say is, so I went and looked, and so the spread's 10.5. 83% of the money is coming in on Georgia right now at 10.5.
Yeah.
Meaning that everybody else also believes this, and I really don't know why it's this low. Maybe because it's in Tennessee. Maybe they think Tennessee will keep it close early. I think Georgia could run away with this game just like they did against Ole Miss, and I'm very confused by this spread.
Yeah, this is going to be a bloodbath. I don't even want to entertain too much going on in this game. Tennessee will not be able to slow down Georgia's offense, and I think Tennessee will be lucky to score 20 points.
I'm really wondering what the bookmakers are doing. This line opened at 8.5, and it jumped to 10.5.
You know what happened, Jake? It's a typo. It's supposed to be 100.5.
Should be 100.5.
It should have been 100.5. It's a typo.
That would make a lot more sense. More sense.
Somebody's getting cussed in Vegas right now, so F's in the chat for that guy. You're costing your boys a lot of money.
The other game that's big this weekend is Washington versus Oregon State. Oregon State absolutely shredded Stanford last week, and I thought Stanford might keep that close because they had been playing pretty hot. Oregon State might be the best team that nobody talks about in the country.
Yeah, and I thought with DJ still struggling, he still completes, I think, right at 60% of his passes, which isn't great. I thought that was going to cost them in a lot of games, and it honestly hasn't. Their running game is absolutely phenomenal. And but I think what bites them here, Jake, is I don't know if they can. I mean, they have the 19th best total offense in the country, but I just don't think they can score with Washington. I really don't. But Washington's playing with their food right now. It's like they're about to give one up. They're about to give one up. And they tried to last week against Utah. Hats off to Utah. I mean, I loved watching Utah. Kyle Whittingham is one of the greatest coaches on this planet, and he does not get near enough credit that he should. I mean, Jake, 10 years ago, that was a Mountain West school.
It was, and they've almost made the playoffs.
Right. They're phenomenal. They're phenomenal. I mean, but to come back to this game, I think Oregon State is going to keep this competitive, but I think it's going to be very similar to last week. And I think Washington doesn't fumble the football on the 1-yard line when they're running in on a pick six against Oregon State. And I think they're able to pull this one off. But I think this is going to be we're going to find out what Washington's made of, because this is the teeth of their schedule. And coming back from Utah are they playing in Oregon State?
It is in Oregon State. And one very, very interesting thing about this is Oregon State opened as a 2-point underdog. Oregon State is now a 2.5-point favorite. This spread has moved 4.5 points since it opened. The money is coming in on Oregon State, and I'm not a guy who's going to be reading the money every time, but it is intriguing to me when a spread basically flips, when it's close and they are picking. Now all of a sudden everybody is picking the other team. And I don't know if it's because we're just unsure about Washington, because they've been very hit and miss. I mean, a couple weeks ago, they nearly lost to Arizona State, but then, they score 50 on USC. And I still don't know if I know what Washington team is going to show up. I think that's my concern.
I think if they show up, the one that showed up against USC and Utah, they're going to win. I mean, Utah has the 15th ranked defense in the country, and they hung 35 on them. Utah
Mhm.
is allowing 20 points a game. I mean, they're not allowing people to score on them like that. And Washington said, "Hold my beer," and they just went ahead and just dropped 35 on them like it was nothing. Oregon
They should have
State
tried to
has,
hold my beer. Maybe I wouldn't have spilled it.
and Oregon State doesn't have a defense just to write off. They're the 33rd ranked defense in the country, but they're not as good as Utah's defense. So I don't see Oregon State being able to pull this game off. But every week I've doubted Oregon State, they've won. So do what you want with that.
Oregon State, it says, keep doubting us. We'll keep proving you wrong.
Yeah, they hate the Moose. They really do.
And I am very interested to see because, especially with Oregon State not having a conference next year, if they win this game, you're looking at a very interesting Oregon State team heading into the bowl season. I don't know where they stand in tiebreakers and maybe be able to have a chance. I don't think they really have a chance at making the Pac-12. I think both their losses are in conference.
Yeah.
So
Wazoo and I want to say it was Utah.
That sounds about right. So I think they're pretty much out, but you can still be on the outside chance of making a New Year's Six bowl game. If they went out, they're right there in that mix. Because I think they also have Oregon. So if you beat Washington and Oregon, I mean, wow, what a way to end your season.
They lost to Washington State 38-35, and they beat Utah 21-7. I remember I picked Utah to win. What a fool. Who would do that? And they lost to Arizona 27-24. So,
all right, let's jump over to Underdog. If you guys aren't familiar with Underdog, it is the fastest growing fantasy app in the industry. Pick whether you think your favorite players should get higher or lower stats in each week's game. You can win up to 20 times your money. Sounds like a great thing. Underdog is the easiest fantasy app where you can make all your picks for every college football game. We only got like 3 more weeks of college football. You got to take advantage of it. But then we got bowl season. Don't forget about that.
Don't do that to me, Jake. Don't you do that to me.
Make sure you use promo code Walk-On, spelled like it is, Walk-On, and get your first deposit doubled up to $100. You must be 18 or older and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. We're here to give you 2 picks. Last week I gave you, I guess 2 weeks ago, I gave you 3. I gave you a bonus. I am not doing a bonus this week. The bonus actually got it to me, but I got 2 good ones.
You know why we're not going to give a bonus this week, Jake? We didn't miss last week.
You can't miss if you don't participate.
You don't share that information, but we didn't miss. That's all you need to know.
So I am taking Ladd McConkey to have higher than 66.5 receiving yards. He's hit this in his last 3 games. I think a big game against Tennessee, they're going to rely on him heavily. Brock Bowers, I think that you could still be like working him into. He still only had ankle surgery a couple weeks ago. So I don't think they're going to rely on Bowers too much. They'll use him when they need to. But McConkey has really come on. And then I'm also going with Cade Stover at Ohio State to have higher than 3.5 receptions. He's hit this in all but 1 game, and that was against Maryland, and he still has 60-some yards and a touchdown. He has become one of Honda McCord's favorite targets. And I think they use him again this weekend. So
Honda McCord and Maserati Marv.
Exactly. We'll just start. I'm sure there's somebody that's a Land Rover. There's got to be a Chevy on there. Everybody.
Yeah. Land Stover. You have it right there.
Land Stover. What are your picks this weekend?
I'm sticking with the Georgia game with you, but I'm going Carson Beck to third for 2 touchdowns. I don't think there's been a game this year that he has not thrown for 2 touchdowns, and I think he keeps that trend going against a soft defense. So Carson Beck to throw for more than 2 touchdowns, and then I've got Michael Penix to also throw for more than 2 touchdowns. Like I said earlier, Michael Penix had one of his greatest games last week, and it was against the best defense he's played all year. I mean, between them and Arizona, Utah, I think is the best of the 2. And then you could throw Oregon in there as well. But it doesn't seem to matter what the defense is that's faced him. Arizona is really the only defense that stopped him. I don't think that happens again. I think that was a fluke game. I think Michael Penix throws for 3, maybe 4 touchdowns this weekend.
All right, let's get into our picks for the season. We are currently tied with 58 wins each, both sitting at 52.73%. After myself going 9-1 last week, you going 6-4.
You were hanging out with Connor Stallions in Aruba.
I mean, he's on vacation right now. He definitely on vacation right now.
He gave you the inside scoop.
He for sure did.
He,
We've got an ugly game here to start. Incredibly ugly, true Big Ten fashion. Illinois versus Iowa. Iowa is a 3.5 point favorite this weekend.
and this, they had the record last week or 2 weeks ago for the lowest opening over under. They broke it again this week. It was I think it opened up at 27. Jake, was it
Yeah,
27?
I think it was right around there. Disgustingly low.
Yeah, this is gonna be fun. The punter is a freaking hoss. He is foregoing his senior season to go into the NFL. Maybe he's just being overworked. He's like a running back. He's got to get out while he can before his leg goes dead. Um, I I think I'm going to be a scumbag, Jake. I think I'm going to be a sicko scumbag and take Iowa minus 3.5. Good God, they don't win by more than 2. I think I got to do. I got to do it. Iowa minus 3.5. Don't fail me, Brian Ferentz. You got rid of they got rid of the OC. The offense is about to come alive.
John Paddock threw for 500 yards or something like that last week. I don't think he does that this week. Iowa's defense is way too good, but he might throw for like 200. I don't know if Illinois wins this game, but giving me 3.5 points, this is a sicko game. That's going to be a 13-10 game. We're going to cover by half a point. Give me the Fighting Illini. Give me Burt. We're going to cover the 3.5.
Jake, you want a fun fact about this Iowa offense before we move on?
I
So
don't know if there's anything fun about this offense.
this is fun. This is fun. They played a game in Wrigley Field last week against Northwestern. 2 weeks ago against Northwestern. They were the 10th highest point score of the year in Wrigley Field. The other 9 were baseball games.
That is terrible.
That is disgusting.
It's disgusting. That is so disgusting.
If you watch this game, the FBI is going to come knock on your door and ask you questions.
That is so disgustingly bad. Let's move into a more fun game. UNLV travels to Air Force this weekend. I put on Twitter a couple weeks ago, I thought College Game Day should have went here. I still think they should have went here. And both teams are 8-2. UNLV is a 3.5 point underdog to the Air Force. Are you going with military? It's not Veterans Day weekend anymore, so you're not obligated to pick them.
I
Or
do
you
love
going with Sin City?
I do love the troops. And they were finding a way to win every single week, just like our armed forces have year in and year out. We didn't lose Vietnam, which ran out of time, but they got smoked by Army, and then they got smoked by Hawaii. And I think that game is what's making me want to go UNLV here. UNLV has been consistent. UNLV has shown up every single week and played well. They didn't win 8 in a row and then lose 2 in a row like Air Force has, and I might have to go against the troops. I'm sorry. I still love you. I still respect you. I still stand for the pledge. UNLV. I'm going with UNLV plus 3.5.
UNLV is my favorite team to bet this year because they're 9-1 against the spread.
There we go.
I am not going to pick against them. I'm also taking UNLV. Like I said, I love what Barry Odom's doing there. He's got UNLV on their. When I was doing research today, they haven't won 8 games since the year 2000, 9 games since way before that, and they might win 10 this year. So give me the running Rebels.
Some people are saying they're not a basketball school anymore. Some people are saying they're a football school. Not me.
They're,
I wouldn't say that.
I won't go that far, but they play football now. They attempt to play football, and they attempt it pretty well.
Breaking news, Jake. Missouri is ranked 9th in the country on the college football playoff ranking.
That doesn't make sense and should not be true.
And hold on, let me pat you on the back before we get to this game. Louisville is ranked 10th. And Jake, I think you might have been the only person in America standing on coming into the season. If y'all want to hear what this man had to say about Louisville, go listen to the ACC preview pod. This dude was all about Louisville. He had them making it to the ACC championship game, and I laughed at him.
You're right. I did do that.
Who is laughing now? Jake? You're a genius. You get the Mr. seal of approval.
I did nail that, and I'll have to go back and look at my predictions because I don't think I did well on it, but I did nail that one.
Put that one on your highlight tape. That one's gonna be sick. Have the huddle thing where it circles around you making that pick, and then it speeds up and you do it. Dude, that's
yeah. There we go.
We got
there we go.
Highlight tapes.
All right, SMU is a 7.5 point favorite over Memphis.
my head tells me to go go Memphis here, but my loins are 3-0, Jake. My loins are 3-0. My loins are telling me to go to future ACC SMU. So I'm going to have to go with future ACC SMU minus 7.5 right here. My loins are 3-0, people. Listen to my loins.
I hope we have some first-time listeners in here because that is going to be something that they did not expect to hear today.
Those people either just now turned off the podcast or will now be tuning in every single week. You never know.
You truly just never know what you're going to get. I'm also taking SMU here. I think that their offense is explosive. They've basically beat everybody that's not a Power 5 program. I think they do that again with Memphis this weekend. 7.5 points. I think they walk through Memphis. Memphis is good, but I don't think Memphis is talented enough to match up with what Rhett Lashley's team has going for him. Let's get to the Moose's favorite game of the week. North Carolina plays Clemson, and Clemson is a 6.5 point favorite over ranked North Carolina.
Jake, I need to meditate for a second. I'm gonna need you to take this to start off with this one. I need to meditate for a second.
You need to meditate.
I just spent my loin pick, so I have to take a second to kind of recoup.
I'm going to take Clemson here. I don't have a very good reason for it. I do think that the last couple of weeks they've really started to gain some momentum. Although the special teams is still confusing because the punter called his own name last week and was terrible.
Turns out that was called. That was a call that was called in purposefully.
That was terrible, and it looked like the rest of the team didn't know that it was called except the punter.
Yeah, that was awful. That was absolutely awful.
There was really just no blocking other than the upbacks. I didn't see anybody else beside the upbacks. It looked like everybody else went out for a punt except the 3 guys that were blocking.
That was good old-fashioned miscommunication.
So, other than that play, I think Clemson is really starting to put it together. I don't know what Clemson finishes the season like, but I think this is a game where you can help project your future here because if you win this game, you can start to build some momentum and head into 2024.
Thank you, Jake, for batting lead off. I do have a reason to go with my Tigers this weekend, unbiasedly. This game is in Death Valley, number 1. It's in Clemson. It's at 3:30. My coworker, who goes by the name of Wild, originally told me he was going to be eating and drinking steak and Fireball. But then today he came up to me and goes, menu changed. Don't know what that means yet, but stay tuned. I will let you know on Twitter as soon as I know. Excuse me, X. On X. Reason number 2. Clemson has the number 6 ranked defense in the entire country. 6. They're going up against a really good offense in UNC, the number 3 total offense in UNC. But it's strength against strength. And I think the fact that UNC is so weak on defense, being 79th in the country, I think that's what's going to cost them. I think Clemson wins. I think Clemson covers. I think Clemson might end up beating them like they did in the ACC championship last year. And this is a game in which I should have used my loin bet. I'm actually kicking myself in the loins for not using my loin bet on this game. But this is how you know this is an unbiased podcast. I'm gonna spend my loins onto games that might not be my favorite, but I have to do it. I have to spend my loins on things unbiasedly.
So you have a lot of confidence in this pick or not a lot of confidence?
I have as much confidence in this pick as Clemson has turnovers. It doesn't make any sense. I think this pick, I have a lot of confidence in this pick, but I feel like an idiot for having confidence in this pick. Does that make any sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. Yeah. USC, UCLA this weekend. The last time that there are Pac-12 members and will play in this game. USC is a 6.5 point favorite, possibly Chip Kelly's last game, we think. Lincoln Riley is doing well, but not living up to hype. Does he, culminate his season? Because this is USC's last game. Their bye is next week, technically. So they won't play again to a bowl game. Do they finish off their season or, do they lose another one?
So 2 things. Number 1, Georgia just jumped to Ohio State in the college football rankings. So we got
Not
that going for you.
surprising. Should have been happening a while ago, but whatever. Here we
Yeah.
are.
And then Dante Moore, if he's healthy, I think this one gets a little dicey, but I think USC beats him. I think they beat him good with all this Chip Kelly news circling. I don't think UCLA stands a chance. I think USC beats him pretty good.
You know, I could see this being like a swan song and UCLA winning this game. I think there's a rallying cry for UCLA this weekend. And I don't think they win, but I think this game's pretty close. UCLA plays a good defense. Obviously, USC doesn't know what defense is. So I think that this game is more high scoring than it probably should be since UCLA doesn't have that good of an offense this year. But I think it's close. So I'm going to take UCLA here.
Yeah, I really want to take UCLA. I really, really do, but
Your loins don't tell you to?
I can't use my loins again. You can only use your loins once per day, once per week.
That's fair. That's a fair assumption. The next game we have here is Michigan's 19.5-point favorites over Maryland. Michigan or the Terps?
Michigan. We don't really need to get into this. The Terps have fallen apart. They went from being a sneaky good school that you don't really want to play to you can overlook them again.
Yeah, they needed a last-second field goal to beat Nebraska. Nebraska's fine, but we really thought Maryland was better than this. And I think even you could say potentially a look-ahead game for Michigan, and maybe the first half they do look ahead a little bit. I think Michigan wins this game by like 28 points. I don't think it's really that close.
No.
Next one we got here, Louisville is a 1.5 favorite over Miami.
This is a pick 'em.
Louisville has already clinched the ACC championship too. Now they're playing. They have an outside shot at making the college football playoff. They need a lot of help. They have to win out. They got to beat Florida State. They need a little bit of help there too. But like their hopes are not dead.
Jake, the fact that you picked that is just,
their schedule was just so easy. When you go back and look at it, their schedule was just crazy easy.
But the hard games, they've played so well. The only game they lost, they beat the crap out of Notre Dame. They tripped up against Pitt and got obliterated. Miami is reeling. They've looked okay. Emory Williams is out for the rest of the year with the arm injury, so Tyler Van Dyke had to come back off the bench. Tyler Van Dyke is not bad. I don't really know why he's hated so much down there. I just think Louisville's got too much going for them this year. I think they put it on them, and I think they win. But I think it is going to be a pretty good game. I don't think Louisville almost lost to Virginia on Thursday night last week, so it's not like this team is flawless. And Miami has way more talent than they do. So this is a game in which Miami could easily win. But I just think this is going to be one of those situations where Miami finds a way to lose.
Yeah, Louisville just continues to find ways to win unless you're Pitt. And since I picked Louisville preseason, might as well just continue to ride with them at this point. Yeah. Like, why not? If they went out, seeing Louisville in the college football playoff would actually be bizarre. It'd probably be like one of the most random ways for a team to make the college football playoff.
They would,
especially with all these elite teams at the top. You've got like 8 other teams that are well more deserving, and here is Louisville just like sneaking their way up the polls, and they're sitting there at 10, and like another week, and maybe they find their way into the top 8.
Anybody who hates the expansion of the college football playoff is going to love it after they see Louisville playing in the college football playoff this year with only 4 teams left, or with only 4 teams, because they're going to be like, there's no way this team deserves to be there, and yet they're there.
Yeah, so I'm just going to continue with Louisville because I took them.
You just have to ride the hot hand.
USC, or not USC, Utah and Arizona play. Utah is a 1.5 favorite over Arizona. Who do you like?
I think this game has the potential to be very ugly as well, very similar to Illinois, Iowa. I got to go with the Utes here. I mean, I think Arizona's a very good football team. I think they're playing beyond what the expectations were, but I just think Utah is more complete. And I think that's the difference in this game. I mean, Arizona is competing with everybody they've played this year. Uh, this is gonna be a fun game. This is gonna be a fun game. This is gonna be a defensive battle. And I think this game is won not by an offense, but by a pick six, by a scoop and score, by a turnover that leads to a field goal. I mean, this is going to be one of those games that's just ugly, gritty, and every yard is going to be hard as hell to get. And not because you suck like the Iowa-Illinois game, but because these defenses are so formidable. Give me Utah minus 1.5.
I'm going to take Arizona. Arizona has kind of been a darling this year and has kind of come out of nowhere. And I really like what they're putting together. I think Arizona finds a way to win this game. Utah is, I mean, for sure talented on defense, but their offense still scares me. Bryson Barnes seems to do enough, but other times he just doesn't look like he knows what the position quarterback is. I think Arizona does enough to win this game. Arizona's ranked now. And as weird as that sounds, like they are ranked and they're playing a lot better than everyone expected them to. Arizona's ranked 17th, weird enough.
Yeah,
Utah is ranked 22nd.
Yeah. I think that'll change after this weekend.
Yeah, Arizona will go even higher. All right, Georgia's 10.5-point favorites over Tennessee. We kind of talked about this already. Run through that.
Chomp. Let's go Georgia.
Yeah, I think the Dogs win this big. I think 10.5 is way too low. I think Georgia wins this by like 4 touchdowns. I don't think it's close at all.
What was his name? The homeless guy, Willie. As Willie said, if you're going to beat the Georgia Bulldogs, you're going to need a Georgia Bulldog bite. Ow. So there's your input for me on that game.
Yeah, there you go. Kansas State. Kansas State is a 9.5-point favorite. I don't know the injury report for Kansas because they were playing their third string quarterback last week. I have not looked into that to see if either Jason Bean or Jalen Daniels will play this week because that will impact my pick.
Yes, Jalen Daniels is out. He will miss. He's still on undetermined. He's still on day-to-day.
He's on the Cam Rising schedule.
He's on the Cam Rising schedule. It looks like Jason Bean is going to play. So I'm going with Kansas here. I think Leipold's going to have these boys up and running. I think the backup, the third string guy, has gotten a lot more reps this week during practice. I think they're going to be prepared for something similar to happen. I think Kansas State would pull it off, but I think this is going to be a fun game to watch too.
Yeah, I like Kansas. I think 9.5 is too many points. I think it's going to be a very close game. And with this game being played in Lawrence, Kansas, they're exceeding, I don't want to say they're exceeding expectations, but without Jalen Daniels, they're exceeding the expectations of what everybody thought they could do without Daniels. Jason Bean is way better than people give him credit for. And Kansas offense is still explosive. Devin Neal is an incredible running back. And I think what they have is still a very good team. Lance Leipold is just a winner. I don't know if they win this game, but I think they keep it close enough to cover the 9.5 points.
Yeah, I mean, and this is the 121st matchup of the Dillon Sunflower Showdown. So these teams go way back. I mean, everybody talks about the Dillon Sunflower Showdown when they're talking about football. So this is just one of those historically traditional games that you have to watch.
And the last game we have here is Washington against Oregon State. Oregon State is a 2.5-point favorite. Like we said, this was Washington favored by 2, but it flipped. Who are you taking?
I'm very confident that Washington wins this game, but maybe not by double digits, but that they win this game. So I'm going Washington plus 2.5.
I'm going to go with Oregon State. I don't know what it is here, but I really like Jonathan Smith. I really like what they've – I think Jonathan Smith is a fantastic coach. I think Oregon State is just riding, this high right now. Washington has not looked good at times this year. They're going on the road. Corvallis can be weird. Don't you remember USC used to always lose when they would go to Corvallis? Every time they would go to the state of Oregon, they would lose. Not that Washington do that, but I think that they could lose this game. And I'm gonna take Oregon State here. We've got 1, 2, We only got 3 different games.
I think I got 4.
No, we have 4. USC at UCLA as well.
Yep.
Got 4 different games here. There's a 6-pack of beer on the line for this one.
That's right. Only 2 weeks left, Jake. It's
Only
getting
2 weeks left.
toasty. Can't wait for
Let's
my
get it.
beers.
All right. We've got a couple questions here this week. A bunch of Thanksgiving themed ones. Thanksgiving's not until next week. We have another podcast coming out before we even get to Thanksgiving, people.
That's all right.
But
Thanksgiving deserves 2 pods.
Nathan Shipton asked, "What is our favorite food for Thanksgiving?"
Okay. Hear me out. I don't know how you Ohioans do this, but
I mean, we eat Thanksgiving food, and I'm smoking a turkey this year.
See. This is where you're wrong. Smoked turkey is good. You got to deep fry that son bitch. You got to get.
I ain't standing outside when it's 30 fucking degrees outside.
That's soft. See, I thought you were tough. You stayed out for the Ohio State Michigan State game, and you don't get the results that you want that you get from a juicy turkey. So my mom grew up with a baked turkey. That thing is drier than cotton in the summer. You want a fried turkey that's injected with Creole butter. It's moist. It's crispy on the outside. It's nice and perfectly blackened. That turkey will be just annihilated within 10 minutes of it coming out of hot oil. My favorite food on Thanksgiving is fried turkey. A little strange one that I like, Jake. You probably never heard of this one. It's called pineapple casserole, which is huge in the South. It is pineapple, cheese, and Ritz crackers, and it slaps. That's another classic. Then pecan pie. You gotta have pecan pie. You gotta have some pecan pie. Don't want some vinegar pie. I bet the haters have never heard of vinegar pie. Look it up, taste it. Don't say anything until after you've tried it. And then you gotta have butter beans and rice. Those things right there. I don't care what else is out there. I just need those 4 perfect items on my palate. My mouth is literally watering right now. I cannot wait for next week.
I mean, I like it simple. Mashed potatoes is like my favorite. I do love me some corn casserole.
Oh, corn casserole. Yes, sir.
Do love me some corn casserole. My wife makes a really good corn casserole. I mean, I like the staples. It's mac and cheese. My sister makes green bean casserole. It's pretty good. I think we might have lost Will.
I'm back.
We got him back.
My camera went wonko.
But like I was saying, I enjoy the staples. The green bean casserole is really good. My grandma makes really good noodles. Just noodles and gravy basically is what it is. I don't know. You put them on top of your mashed potatoes. It's like your gravy almost.
The best thing about Thanksgiving is watching football with leftover turkey sandwiches. And let me tell you what I put on my turkey sandwich. Y'all ready for this? You got bread, mayonnaise.
I'm glad not. You usually need bread for a sandwich.
You got to. But listen here, Jake. You want to make sure you're very specific with all these people, very explicit. So you start with 1 slice of bread, mayonnaise, salt and pepper, your fried turkey, mac and cheese, collard greens, gravy, and if you're getting real spicy, put a little bit of cranberry sauce on there, a little bit more mayonnaise, smush it together. Best sandwich on the planet. Best sandwich on the planet, not even close.
There's a place here in Columbus that's pizza that does what they call the gobbler. And I forget what the sauce they put on it, but it's got stuffing and barbecue turkey on it. And then they serve it with a side of cranberry sauce. So you can get the gobbler pizza, usually the 2 weeks before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Been a minute since I have it, but I might need to go out and get it this weekend.
Go dabble with it. Make sure you have your Thanksgiving pants on. Thanksgiving pants, for all you haters who don't know what that is, they're stretchy pants. You can eat as much as you want. If you don't grunt at least 4 times after getting up from the table on your meal, and if you don't pat your belly and lean back, go, oh, you didn't do Thanksgiving right.
All right, the next question we have here. I think that was a good point to move on. I think that was a good point to move on. Tyler Urbanski says, "What's the better coaching vacancy, Texas A&M or if UCLA opens UCLA?"
Jake, my knee jerk was Texas A&M, but to go back to what we talked about earlier, I think the donors, the boosters of Texas A&M are going to be a lot more timid when they go to this hire, and I don't think you're going to get as long of a leash as Jimbo had, B, the lucrative contract that he got, and C, you're gonna be on a hot seat. You're essentially coming in like wanting to win now, whereas UCLA, it's different in which like it's harder to recruit there, but I thought they didn't have such high expectations on you. I think at the end of the day, Texas A&M is the better head coaching vacancy, because if you're a guy who knows what they're doing and is going to recruit the state of Texas, which is Jimbo, I don't know if you know this, it's one of the hotbeds of college football in the entire world. I think Texas A&M is the place to be. SEC,
Yeah,
Texas,
UCLA is, if you really go look at it, UCLA is not that historically good. It's not.
no,
It's not as good as people think. People think because they play in the Rose Bowl that it is this like, nearly a blue blood. UCLA is like a 7 win a year program, like 7, 8 wins. Like they are slightly above average. It is not a place that is easy to recruit to. I mean, campus is an hour from the stadium. It's like a West Coast Miami if you remove the 20 years where Miami was dominant.
I mean,
Like,
yeah,
I think that's the closest it is. Like, you play in LA, yeah, so you're going to be able to recruit kids from California, but your backyard is you're also recruiting against USC, who has way more tradition, way more historic value, and it's just going to be a lot harder. It's not like you're the only team in LA. It's not like you're LA's team.
right.
USC has way more tradition and history. Even right now, Caleb Williams is a superstar out in LA. UCLA doesn't really have anybody that's considered a superstar. Dante Moore could be, but I think A&M, just because if you can handle the boosters, you basically have unlimited money to do with whatever you want.
Right.
And if you can figure out a way to handle the boosters, you're in a great position. So I think Texas A&M is honestly a way better job.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right, last question from Cole Curtin Guy. 2 questions technically. Would you be in favor of a group of 5 playoff, and how would you build it out, and how many teams?
Absolutely, I'd be in favor of a group of 5 playoff. First off, they would have to play on Tuesdays. I need MACtion games for their playoff. Like that would just have to be a rule. Number 2, I think you do it similar to what they're doing with the Power 5, 12 teams. And maybe like, the Power 5 has a group of 5 team that has to make it the 6th conference. Maybe you let one of those little D2 schools kind of dabble in there, one of those FCS schools come in, So I don't know. I think a G5 playoff would be very fun to watch, and I think America. I think that would expose these G5 teams to a lot more viewership than what they're getting now. I mean, if you're a sicko like me, you're watching, and Jake, you're watching Tuesday, Wednesday. You're watching MACtion. You're watching Conference USA. You're watching the Sun Belt because that's still good football being played. And I think the rest of America would see that too if they turn the TV on and watch the playoff. And I think if there's a playoff, people watch it. People love
Yeah,
P words.
I bet on games tonight, and I bet Toledo, who is currently down 11 points. So I'm not okay right now.
This is Aruba,
Not.
Jake. I think this is Aruba, Jake. Right now, they're going to come back. I'm not worried.
I also bet Eastern Michigan, who's down with 3 minutes left. So that's also fun. It's weird because college football is still the greatest sport in the world to me, and it's evolving. I don't want to say it's dying. It's not growing. It's evolving right now because the playoffs are starting to mean so much more. If you play in the MAC, you aren't playing for any sort. You're playing for a MAC championship. That's your whole goal. You're not playing for anything else. There's no higher goal if you play at a MAC than a conference championship. Sure, they could go undefeated and make the college football playoff, but the way the MAC schedules their games, almost every single one of them every year plays a Big Ten team. And so you have to hit the years where you're not playing Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, or top tier Wisconsin team, when you're playing a bye game and you're going to them, because these MAC teams don't host the Big Ten teams almost ever. Occasionally you get, Iowa State traveling to Ohio, but this is more rare than it's common, especially some of these lower tier ones. Like Kent State does not host, any of these big teams. Toledo has hosted a couple of them because they have a larger stadium. I think for some of these programs, if you give a second tier, there's a little bit more motivation, and maybe it also helps temper expectations. So I think that there could potentially be there. I don't know how it works out, but I'd be in favor. I'd watch it 100%. I'd watch it. I'd bet on it. I'd be glued to it. I would be giving an analysis on it. Sign me up.
Yep.
Sign me up every day of the week and twice on Tuesday.
That's right. Twice on Tuesday, Maction, baby.
And then his other question was, in honor of Thanksgiving week, who would eat in a pie eating contest? Myself and the guys from First and Goal, being Cole and Tyler, or you? We get a 1 hour time limit and any choice of flavor.
So I'm by myself going against the boys.
We'll start off. What flavor would you choose?
Pecan pie. I'm going pecan pie.
Wouldn't that be too much sugar?
No. Give me a glass of milk. I don't give a shit. I'm getting after it. I'm eating 3 of those mofos in an hour. That's easy.
Okay, but what if we each eat one pie? We're there.
The best y'all will do is tie. The best y'all do is tie. Listen, I'm passionate about food competition. If I have to eat another extra slice of pecan pie, I'll do it. I'll do it for the win. This would be.
So you have confidence you'd beat the 3 of us?
I do not have confidence. I have confidence I would tie y'all. I would tie y'all, and then I would have to in overtime. There's never much love when you go tea with Moose in an eating contest, Jake. I think I could pull it out.
I think my biggest thing is I don't know what flavor of pie I would eat, because like I'm not huge on apple pie. I think it's fine. I think I'd probably have to go pumpkin pie, because I think it would be because you get the light fluffiness of the pumpkin center. Like apple pie is heavy. Like it is dense.
Just like me.
I think I would feel stuffed after eating like half of it. But I think pumpkin pie, I think I could crush a ton of pumpkin pie, because you get some nice fluffy filling. Like I think I could go more in 1 hour. If I was hungry, I think I could go more than one pie. I think I could go a pie and a half.
Go back 4 weeks and you're going to see again. I'm going off of emotion with this pick. Jake is literally using strategy. He's using knowledge. He's using logic. This is what you get on this podcast, folks. Now, this might be something stupid to say, Jake. If I get 300 followers on X by the end of December, by December 31st, I will on the following pod, I will see how many pies I can eat in an hour.
I don't know if I want to be on that one.
Oh, you'd be on that one. We got to talk football while I'm crushing pies. You got to do something that keeps me off this. We could live stream a game where we're actually not watching the game, but I'm just crushing pies for an hour. You tune in. There's nothing more entertaining than listening to someone eat pie on a microphone.
I think there are things more entertaining, but I could be intriguing.
300 followers. Well, I'll video myself doing it. If I can get 300 followers on Twitter, I will eat as many pies as I can in an hour.
It's good to know. That's all we have for this week. Went a little long, but we had a lot to talk about this week. We'll be back again on Tuesday of next week, because Thanksgiving is on Thursday, and
Christmas Eve,
basically is. And for all the sickos out there that want to go and meet up with everybody from your hometown on Wednesday night, if you really want to go out, do that, and relive your high school days, it's the perfect night to go find your high school ex-girlfriend or boyfriend.
Yep. Have a couple drinks. Accidentally.
I'm not going to do that.
Well, you're married.
Well, yeah, but I'm not going to go to my high school and find. I don't go back to my hometown anymore.
I'm not either. I'm too tired when it gets late. I'd rather just drink at the house and be an old man.
Yeah. I'll celebrate with drinking a bunch of PBRs, maybe knocking another 2 over in my office area.
There you go.
Make sure to follow us on social media at the Walk-On Redshirts on Twitter, our X, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, wherever else we are. Make sure to follow. we are not on LinkedIn yet. Maybe one day, not yet. Make sure to follow Moose at Walk-On Moose on Twitter. Like you said, get to 300 by the end of the year, and he'll sit here and eat pies live on the podcast.
While Jake hypes me up, he's got to be a part.
Yeah, maybe I'll donate to the pie fund. Maybe I'll help donate to the pie fund at that point. No. What I'll do is while he does that, I'm gonna drink the 6-pack of beer that he buys me after I win.
Okay. Yeah.
After I win. Make sure to like, subscribe, rate the podcast. Helps us out. Give us 5 stars, 4 stars, whatever you think. Leave comments. Just interact with us. We're growing pretty rapidly. Also, make sure to go and join Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code WALK-ON and get your deposit matched up to $100. It's a great place to play, great place to win some money.
That's right.
And then we will be back again next week, again on Tuesday, to preview rivalry weekend. Should be a great podcast next weekend.
It's going to be fun.
That's going to be a fun one. It's going to be a lot of fun. With that being said, that's been another episode of the Walk-On Redshirts.